You've probably heard before that you should shuffle back to the middle after hitting your shots in tennis. And sometimes that's true, but other times it's not the right footwork pattern. That's what we're going to study today in this video of Gael Monfils. He's playing points here against Stefanos Tsitsipas. Thank you to Love Tennis, the YouTube channel, for providing this video footage for us to analyze. Really appreciate it very much. And we're going to go ahead and move through a couple of points here and watch Gael, who's one of the best movers in the game of tennis, how he recovers after hitting different shots in different situations. So here right away after this serve, he gathers himself and then immediately goes to a split step. This right as Tsitsipas is making contact with his return of serve, and he's doing it here because the ball is across over on the ad side in the corner. And so he does not have to go back to the middle of the baseline. That's really important to understand, that your positioning should be, rather the middle, your recovery point should be different depending on where the ball is on the other side. And we'll see a lot of examples of that from Monfils here. So he makes his split step, and Tsitsipas just hits a pretty standard cross-court shot, good depth. Monfils absorbs that shot, and after, again, just makes a split step right in the same spot. So he's not moving back to the middle of the court. He's not using any shuffle steps. Because he sent the ball in the opposite corner, he knows that he can maintain his position, and that's one of the big benefits of hitting cross court in singles. Now, on this shot, Tsitsipas pulls him way off the court, excellent ball, and Monfils finds himself completely outside the court, whereas Stefanos is just waiting for his ball to come in. And so Monfils, in this situation, because he recognizes that he's way out of position, his opponent is imbalanced and ready and waiting for his shot, he understands that there's a tremendous mismatch here. And he is in a position where he's going to guess where the next shot is going to go. So he makes a decision here, just a judgment call, and identifies correctly, as it turns out, and we'll find out in a second, that Tsitsipas is just going to go for the open court. And so rather than shuffle back to the middle, watch how Gael turns his hips, turns his shoulders, and just runs across the baseline. And so this goes directly against what you've heard as far as square yourself up to the ball, keep your hips facing forwards, keep your toes facing forwards, and move laterally across the baseline. In this particular scenario, Monfils correctly identified that he was in a ton of trouble and just made the judgment call to just run across the baseline for the next shot. He happened to be right and played an excellent defensive ball here. And after this shot, once he gathers himself and gets his balance again, what does he do? Well, he knows that because his ball is moving towards the middle and Tsitsipas is setting up right in the center of the baseline, just a little bit off the center of the baseline, he doesn't have very far to go to prepare for the next shot. And so all he does is make a single shuffle step that leads into his split step. And so he's combining those things, recovery and balance. And so he finds himself in a balanced, neutral position, right dead in the center of the court. And now he's brought the point back to neutral. Now he's able to go ahead and respond to this shot pretty comfortably, making a couple casual steps across the baseline. And now he's back toe-to-toe in a neutral position in this exchange. So after this cross-court rally ball, let's find out what he does. His right foot is right about the single sideline, and what he does here is cross over instead of shuffling and then go into his split step. So again, he's decided to balance himself cross-court from where his shot has landed. Instead of going all the way back to the middle, critical recovery point, and instead of making this a shuffle step, he's made a crossover step and then gone into his split step. Now he's balanced himself again. Tsitsipas changes direction, and here Monfils decides to just go ahead and pull the trigger and go for an offensive shot. So we've seen a wide range of different footwork patterns here. We saw Monfils just stay right where he was, do no recovery, and just balance himself. We saw him identify a huge opening by Stefanos and just run straight across the baseline. We saw him cross over, and we saw him use a shuffle step. So if you are in the habit of just shuffling back to the middle, you can see how this would leave you kind of vulnerable. Because in the example of when Monfils was way off the court, using shuffles all the way across the court, there's no way he could have gotten to that defensive shot. So having different options for different situations is critical. Let's go ahead and look at a few more examples here from Gael. And in this particular point, he's returning serve. And we're going to see him get stretched way out wide right off of the serve. And I wanted to show you this point because it's similar to the other one where he got pulled way out wide, except this time his guess doesn't pay off. And it's critical to understand that footwork is all about leaving yourself in the best possible position. But at the end of the day, you've got a lot of real estate to cover, and you're not always going to be in the perfect spot at the perfect time, even if you're a ridiculous athlete and mover like Monfils is. So here he again identifies that he's way off the court. His opponent is in a balanced, controlled position, ready to hit an offensive shot. And so once again, you're going to see him just make a decision to run to the open court. And so he's committed here completely with his hips and with his shoulders that he's going to be running across the baseline to hopefully receive a backhand. Now, in this particular example, he guessed wrong, and Tsitsipas hits behind him, which, by the way, is a great play against somebody who just gets a lot of balls like Monfils, is to try to hit behind them. Essentially anticipate that he's anticipating that you're going to hit to the open court and hit any other direction to try to cross him up. This time it didn't pay off, but that doesn't mean he's not going to keep trying to guess the right position and get to the ball ahead of time, because that's just his style of play. And you can learn from that and start to adapt and use different types of footwork in order to get to more shots instead of just using the same flavor of footwork after every single ball. Let's look at one final example here, again on Gael's serve. And this is a really special one. This is really where the magic of Monfils really comes into play. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. Look at how, as Gael comes down from his serve, he just goes ahead and makes his split step right in the middle of the baseline because he identifies his opponent is also very close to the middle of the baseline. And as he identifies where this ball is traveling from Tsitsipas, he moves across the baseline and again is in trouble here. And this is just kind of the scenario where Monfils really kind of loves to be. Like, he loves scrambling. He loves trying to hit impossible shots. He loves trying to guess and come up right and kind of steal a point away from his opponent. And so here we're in a familiar scenario where he identifies that he's in trouble. His opponent is closing forwards. Watch how Stefanos is identifying this short ball. He's closing in for the kill. And so Monfils, after gathering his balance, what he's going to do is cross over completely. And Stefanos, seeing this crossover step, may think from his side of the court that, oh, he's pushing, he's making a full cross here to try to get himself in the right position. Maybe he might even guess again, because we've seen several examples already of Monfils just guessing and selling out and saying, oh, I'm going to go cover that side. And so Monfils, by making this full crossover, is kind of communicating that I'm going to be pushing hard to move in this direction. But watch what happens next. After making that full crossover, he plants well before Stefanos swings forwards, catches his balance, and now well before he would have normally split stepped, Gael is pushing off back in the direction he just came. And so had Tsitsipas decided to hit down the line, there would be nobody there. It would just be wide open court. But I don't know what Gael saw here, what intelligence he has, that he's reading the scenario so well, but he's gathered himself ahead of time, caught his energy, caught his balance, and pushed back in the direction that he came from. He guessed correctly, and now he's going to catch Tsitsipas out of position because he just approached on a cross-court ball, and Gael caught his balance super early, got lined up for it, guessed correctly, and is able to hit the passing shot. So lots of different stuff to kind of absorb and take in here. Should you sometimes use a shuffle step on the way back? Yes, you should use the shuffle step when you don't have a lot of ground to cover. Basically, when you're about a shoulder's width or full stride away from where you want to end up for the next ball is when the shuffle is a good pattern to use. If you have a lot of court to cover, then the shuffle makes it really awkward and difficult to cover a lot of ground very quickly. So sometimes it's appropriate. Monfils just showed us a bunch of other different patterns and ways of approaching recovery that can aid you to cover a lot of ground, guess where your opponent is going, or even gather your balance, check your momentum, and then go back the other way to, again, try to cross up your opponent and catch them off guard.